I'm Dr. Nicole Saphier. I'm the Director of Breast Imaging here at Memorial Sloan Kettering, our regional Monmouth location, and I graduated Ross University in 2008. I think everyone goes to medical school for altruistic reasons. We all want to help someone. What that really means, we don't really know until we're going through our journey. You know, I always knew I wanted to be a doctor early on. I went with neurology, pediatric oncology, went through a plethora of different specialties, which I thought I was going to want to do. And it wasn't until the end of medical school that I decided radiology is where I wanted to be. During my third year of medical school, when we were in Miami, my grandmother, who was diagnosed with breast cancer and subsequently died of breast cancer, really inspired me to get involved with women's health. She was diagnosed at a late age because her generation, women didn't necessarily go to the doctors for breast concerns or women's concerns in general, and it became very clear to me that I wanted to change some of this misconception. So during college, I was a single mom. I was working, going to school full-time. I had my major in microbiology. I was minoring in Spanish, and I was doing the best that I could. I had a clear track to go. I wanted to be doctor of osteopathic medicine. That's what my family physician was growing up, and that's what I was going to do. I had a plan. And when I got accepted into an osteopathic school, I called my grandmother. I told her where I was going, and it was in that moment that she said to me, "So, is a DO still a doctor? Like, are you still going to be a real doctor?" And I remember that exact moment, and that hit me. Although I knew the difference between DO and MD, and I knew that it was still a doctor, I needed to have that MD behind me, mainly because my grandmother thought I needed to have that MD behind my name. So when I was dealing with what am I going to do next, my advisor at my college decided to call a colleague at Ross University, and after gaining a lot of information about Ross, I realized this is exactly where I want to apply. And so I went through the application and the interview process, and there I was. I started fall semester, and off to the West Indies we went. So when I first arrived in Dominica, I was overwhelmed with just being in a foreign country, in a foreign space, and it was a beautiful scenery. And then started basic sciences. Morning one, Monday morning, I walk in and there are amazing technology everywhere. All of a sudden I was no longer on Dominica. I was just in the middle of this large medical university, and a little overwhelming, to be honest. It was a huge auditorium. There were a lot of students, and for the first time I felt like, oh, this is serious. And from the auditoriums where you learned your didactic lectures to the labs, I mean, it is the most professional and just overwhelming experience you can have, but it was provided for a great education. Right away, I realized that the support from the faculty chairs, and the associate deans, everyone was there to help you. So if you found you were struggling, whether it came to something education-wise, personal-wise, everyone's very approachable, and I was able to go to anyone with any concern or question I had. And they were not only helpful in coming up with solutions, but they valued the feedback. So just like any medical student's going to face, the transition between your second year and your third year of medical school, they're very different. So when you go and you start your clinical rotations like myself, I felt extremely prepared. I was next to US medical students, other international medical students, as well as osteopathic students, and by far I felt extremely prepared to be standing next to them. I did my residency at Maricopa Medical Center in Phoenix, Arizona. I did it in diagnostic imaging, and although I had a multitude of interviews from some of the top schools across the country, I was fortunate enough that my hometown program was able to offer me a position, and I got a great education there. I found the whole residency application process and the match and everything a little overwhelming. Thankfully, Ross University kind of prepped me for that. I had a lot of mentors there that were able to talk me through it. I had no trouble finding a residency program. I had many offers. I had a lot of interviews that were very strong. However, you're responsible for where you're going to end up in your life. I happened to do very well during medical school, and I did very well on my exams. And because of my efforts and how I did, that is why I was able to land residency programs, fellowships, and even jobs after my training. And Ross University truly did prepare me for my future. So following completion of my 5-year radiology residency, I secured a fellowship at Mayo Clinic in women's oncologic imaging. I essentially studied breast imaging, but I also did image guiding procedures. And from there, I worked in private practice for a few years, and now I am the Director of Breast Imaging at the regional site of Memorial Sloan Kettering. For me, one of the best things that came out of Ross University are my two best friends, who are still my best friends today. They're both in family practice. They're across the country from me. We're all kind of spread out, but we're each other's go-to. I get text messages all day long about what sort of radiological imaging they should order, and I text them all day long about literally everything else. So the friendships and the bonds that came out of Ross University is truly, truly my favorite piece. I think for any person who's looking to go to medical school, you have to be extremely committed to what you want to do. And if you are considering even going to a foreign country to go to do medical school, then you better be really committed, because it really is about the journey. And there's a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication, but it's just part of the process. It's just one of the steps. For me, Ross University means opportunity. They gave me the opportunity to be the person that I am today.